Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're going deep on something that's been making waves in the legal world. Outsourcing deposition summaries.
Yeah, it's definitely a hot topic.
We've got a ton of research to dig through, case studies, expert opinions.
The whole 9 yards.
Exactly. And the goal, to see if outsourcing this, let's be honest, pretty tedious task is actually a smart move. And trust me, there are some interesting tidbits in here. Like, did you know some firms are claiming they're saving like 30% of their prep time by doing this?
30%.
That's huge.
What's really fascinating is this isn't just about cutting corners.
Right.
Firms are drowning in work.
Oh, tell me about it.
Summarizing these depositions in-house, it just eats up so much time.
So much time. It's like valuable attorney hours just vanishing into these transcripts.
Yeah.
Hours that could be spent, actually strategizing the case.
Or even just like talking to clients.
Exactly. So let's break this down. What exactly are we talking about when we throw around this outsourcing deposition summaries thing?
Okay, so in a nutshell, you're basically bringing in a specialist, a service provider, who takes these sometimes massive deposition transcripts and turns them into these tight, accurate summaries.
Okay.
And these summaries, then, attorneys can use those to quickly grasp the key points.
Makes sense. So it's like having this dedicated team sort of sifting through everything, making it easy to digest. But like, why is this suddenly a thing?
Well, yeah.
Is it just because everyone's so swamped?
I mean, that's part of it for sure, but it's also that the legal world is changing, right? Cases are getting way more complicated.
Oh, yeah.
And the sheer amount of information, it's exploding. We need smarter ways to manage all of it.
So it's like bringing in the specialist to like streamline things so lawyers can focus on the higher level stuff?
Exactly. And it's not just a feeling. I mean, there's actual data to back this up.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the National Association of Legal Professionals, they did a study. And it showed that outsourcing these summaries can actually cut down overall case prep time by like 30%.
Wait, 30%? Hold on, let's break that down. Imagine you're a lawyer, right? You've got this huge case, hundreds of pages of depositions. What does a 30% time saving actually look like?
Okay, well, think about it. That could easily be, what, 10 hours saved? Maybe more.
Wow.
10 hours. What could you do with 10 extra hours on a case? More research, better arguments, more time with your team.
Not to mention, like, actually having a life outside of work.
Exactly. It's huge. You're not just drowning in paperwork anymore.
Right. Okay, now one thing that really stood out to me in the research was this. Apparently, outsourcing can make the summaries more accurate.
Oh, interesting.
Which seems kind of counterintuitive, right? How could someone outside the firm be better at this than, like, attorneys who are living and breathing the case?
It is a good question. It all comes down to specialization.
Okay.
These teams, they just do summaries. Day in, day out, they've got systems in place, quality checks, and they often have really sophisticated technology that helps them pick out the key info.
So it's not just chucking work over the fence. It's more like using their expertise to actually make things better.
Exactly. And that's why it's not as simple as just picking any random provider and calling it a day.
Right.
There's a strategy to this. There are things you need to think about to make sure you're getting the most out of it and to avoid any risks.
Okay, so what are those strategies?
Well, there are a few.
Okay.
But the biggest one, the most important one, is picking the right partner.
Okay, choosing your outsourcing partner. What do we need to look for? Like, what are the absolute must-haves?
Well, first and foremost, you need a provider that really knows their stuff in your specific area of law. If it's medical malpractice, they need to understand that world inside and out.
Right.
Same goes for contract law, intellectual property,
Yeah.
anything specialized.
Yeah, you wouldn't want like a personal injury specialist summarizing a patent case, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not just the legal stuff. They need to understand how your firm works. Can they handle your formatting? Are they familiar with your case management system? All those little details matter.
So it's about finding a partner, not just a vendor who cranks out generic summaries.
Exactly. And that starts with communication, being really clear about what you need.
Okay, so talk to me about that. What does good communication look like in this situation?
It's about setting expectations from day one.
Okay.
How detailed do you need those summaries to be? How fast do you need them? How do
Right.
you want them delivered? Talk about all that up front.
So you're not just tossing them a transcript and crossing your fingers.
Nope. You're collaborating, making sure they understand exactly what you need.
Okay. Now, you mentioned earlier that these specialized teams can actually be more accurate than even experienced attorneys when it comes to summarizing depositions. Can you unpack that a bit? Like, what makes them so good at this?
Well, I think part of it is that They come in fresh.
Okay.
They don't have any preconceived notions about the case,
Yeah.
no biases that might, like, color how they interpret the testimony.
So they're more objective.
Exactly. And they also really understand the language, the procedures. They know what to look for, how to connect the dots in a way that someone focused on the bigger strategy might miss.
It's almost like they have a sixth sense for spotting those little details that could make or break a case.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And on top of all that, a lot of these teams are using some really advanced technology now.
Oh, interesting. What kind of tech are we talking about?
Well, some of them are using AI, artificial intelligence, to analyze the transcripts, to pick out key themes, even flag inconsistencies in witness statements.
So it's not just human expertise, it's combining that expertise with the power of technology.
Exactly. And that's what makes this such an exciting solution for firms that are struggling to keep up with all this information overload.
Okay, so we've covered choosing the right partner, clear communication, and the importance of expertise and technology. But I know there's more to this story. What other strategies are crucial for making this outsourcing thing work?
Right. Well, once you have those basics covered, the next big step is figuring out how to fit these summaries into your existing workflow.
Right, because it's one thing to have these summaries, but it's another thing entirely to actually use them.
Totally. And that's where things can get tricky.
Okay, so what are some of the challenges there, and how can firms overcome them?
Well, the first hurdle is getting everyone on board.
Right.
Your whole team needs to understand why these summaries are valuable and how to use them.
So it's not just giving them a new tool, it's training them on how to actually use it.
Right. And that might mean changing some of your processes.
Okay.
Maybe you need a new system for reviewing summaries, sharing them, or maybe you need to integrate them directly into your case management software.
So it's about looking at the big picture, how everything fits together.
Exactly. And that leads us to another key strategy, keeping an eye on performance.
Okay, performance monitoring. Tell me more about that.
Basically, it's checking in regularly with your outsourcing partner, making sure they're delivering.
Right.
Are they meeting your expectations on quality, accuracy, speed? Is there anything that needs tweaking?
So it's not a set it and forget it kind of deal?
Right at all. You need to stay involved, give feedback, make sure you're getting what you need.
Makes sense. So we've got choosing the right partner, communication, workflow, performance monitoring. Anything else we need to cover?
Yes. One more critical element, training your team.
Okay, training. What kind of training are we talking about here?
It's more than just teaching them how to read the summaries.
Right.
It's about giving them the skills to analyze that information, find those hidden gems, and then apply that to the bigger picture of the case.
So it's about leveling up their strategic thinking, using these summaries to build a stronger case.
Exactly. And that might mean training on specific legal issues, research techniques, even negotiation skills.
So it's not just about replacing what they were doing before, it's about making them even better at their jobs.
Precisely. And that's the real power of outsourcing when it's done right.
It sounds like we're talking about a real mindset shift here, moving from just processing information to actually using it to get better results.
You got it. And that's what I think is so exciting about this.
Well, okay.
We're not just outsourcing a task, we're changing the way legal teams work and ultimately how they serve their clients.
Now I want to play devil's advocate for a minute.
Okay.
Because we've been talking about all the positives, but are there any downsides to outsourcing? Are there like risks or challenges people should be aware of?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. You always have to weigh the pros and cons with anything like this.
Yeah.
I think one concern is the potential loss of control.
Okay. Yeah.
You're handing over this really crucial part of the process to someone outside the firm.
You want to make sure they're doing it right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You don't want to sacrifice quality or accuracy just to save a little time.
Right.
And that's why those strategies we talked about, choosing the right partner, making everything crystal clear from the beginning, keeping an eye on things,
Right.
that's all so important to make sure you're not losing that control.
So it's about delegating, but still like staying in the driver's seat.
Right. Now, another thing that comes up is the cost.
Yeah.
Outsourcing isn't free, obviously. Firms need to do the math and see if it makes financial sense.
Like a cost-benefit analysis.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Weigh the cost against the time savings, the increased efficiency, the potential for better accuracy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I think the integration and training become even more important.
Okay.
If you're going to invest in these summaries, you want to make sure you're using them to their full potential.
Getting your money's worth.
Exactly. Now, there are also some legal and ethical aspects to consider.
Okay, what are we talking about there?
Well, confidentiality is a big one.
Right.
Depositions often contain very sensitive information. So your provider needs to have top-notch security measures in place to protect that.
Yeah, you don't want any leaks.
Exactly. You really need to vet those providers, make sure they meet your firm's standards for data security, make sure they're complying with all the relevant regulations.
So it's not just about finding someone who can summarize, it's about trust.
Absolutely. Another ethical consideration is making sure that using these summaries doesn't, impact the quality of legal representation.
Right.
You don't want to get so reliant on them that you're not actually digging into the evidence yourself.
Right.
They're a tool to help you understand the case, not a replacement for your own judgment.
It's about using them to work smarter, not cutting corners.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance between technology and human expertise. Now, all that being said, I do want to mention that while outsourcing can be a great solution for many firms, it's not the only one.
Okay.
There are other ways to manage this workload that might be a better fit for some firms, depending on their needs and resources.
Like what are some of those other options?
Well, one option is to bring in the technology yourself.
Okay.
There are AI-powered summarization tools out there that can do some of that heavy lifting, analyzing the transcripts, finding the key points.
So it's like bringing some of that specialization in-house.
Right. But you have to keep in mind, these tools aren't all created equal.
Right.
Some are better than others, and they can be a big investment to set up and learn to use properly.
Right. It's not just plug and play.
Another option is to simply hire more help.
Okay.
Bring on additional paralegals or support staff to help with the summarizing. That can be a more cost-effective way to get more done without having to outsource.
And you'd have someone right there in the firm who knows the case inside and out.
Exactly. But you need to make sure you have the resources to train them properly and that their workload is manageable.
Right. You don't want to burn them out.
Exactly. So at the end of the day, the best way to handle this is going to depend on each individual firm.
Right.
Their size, their resources, how many cases they're handling, how comfortable they are with technology, all of that factors in.
Sounds like it's important to do your homework and figure out what makes the most sense for your specific situation.
Absolutely. Now, no matter what approach you choose, the key is to be proactive. Don't wait until you're drowning in depositions to figure out a plan.
Right.
They're a crucial part of the process, and managing them effectively can really make a difference in the outcome of a case.
Yeah, it can make or break a case.
Exactly. And by being proactive, exploring all the options, firms can make sure they're using their time and resources wisely and ultimately getting the best results for their clients.
So let's bring this back to our listener. What's the takeaway here for the legal professional who's dealing with all of this?
It all comes down to this.
Yeah.
What would you do with 30% more time?
Ooh, good question.
How would that impact your cases, your clients, your life? Think about that.
It's like someone just handed you this gift of time.
Exactly. And that's what's so exciting to me. It's not just about outsourcing a task. It's about rethinking how we work in this profession. Working smarter, not harder.
And finding ways to do better work for our clients in this crazy, complex legal world.
Exactly. And I truly believe that by embracing innovation, trying new things like outsourcing, legal professionals can not only survive, but thrive.
You know, it strikes me that this whole outsourcing thing, it's not just a legal thing, right?
Oh, yeah,
it's like happening everywhere. This trend towards like specialization.
Right. The world's just getting so complex. You can't be an expert at everything anymore.
Exactly. It's like that jack of all trades, master of none thing.
Yep.
Better to focus on what you're good at and then bring in other experts for the rest.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where this outsourcing idea really shines. You get to tap into that specialized knowledge without having to build it all yourself.
It's like having a whole team of superstars on speed dial.
Right. It's a huge advantage.
Okay, so as we wrap things up here, let's give our listeners some key takeaways. If they're thinking about outsourcing, what should they remember?
Well, first of all, do your research. Don't just jump on the first provider you find.
Right.
Really look into their background, their experience. Make sure they're a good fit for your firm.
Like with any important partnership, right? You want to know who you're working with.
Exactly. And once you've found someone you think might be a good fit, don't be afraid to ask some tough questions.
Okay.
How do they guarantee accuracy?
Yeah.
What's their process for quality control? How do they handle sensitive information? All of that's really important.
It's your right to ask those questions. I mean, you're entrusting them with important stuff.
Right. And lastly, communicate.
Okay.
Be super clear about what you need, when you need it, what format you want it in. The more you communicate upfront, the smoother things will go.
It's all about setting yourselves up for success.
Exactly. Finding the right people, using their skills, working together to get the best possible results.
So to all our listeners out there, give outsourcing a thought.
Yeah.
Could be just what you need to really level up your practice.
And think about it. It's not just about freeing up time. It's about what you can do with that time.
Right.
What amazing things can you accomplish when you're not bogged down in paperwork?
Hmm.
How can you use that time to be a better lawyer, to build stronger relationships with your clients?
That's a great question. On that note, we'll wrap up our deep dive into outsourcing deposition summaries. Hopefully this gave you some food for thought.
Definitely.
And until next time, keep diving.